Hello and a very warm welcome to Bharata. First time frankrausanpereira. This is FRP Explains. Before I begin, let me just inform you to like the video, subscribe and hit the bell icon because it's very important for us to keep bringing you this content. A Twitter trend or Twitter trend is what I'm here to talk about today. No vaccines, no vacancy has been trending on Twitter all through the course of the day. Both of these issues, that is no vaccines and no vacancy, are extremely important, and I'm going to try and address both of them as best as I possibly can. First, I'll take up this issue of no vaccines. It is a fact that there are no vaccines in India and there is a massive shortage of vaccines. Could we have done better? Yes, we could. Look at America. It has a massive stockpile of vaccines and it has ensured that it has secured its vaccine needs. But it is also a fact that India and America are not the same. And that is something, a reality that we need to come to terms with. Many of them have criticized, many analysts, experts have, and especially the opposition has criticized vaccine Maitri, or the program to ensure that Indian vaccines were sent around the world. Vaccine diplomacy is what we called it. China is using it as a tool right now. India too did vaccine diplomacy and it was fairly successful as well. You know, we saw countries in the Caribbean, we saw Brazil and many other countries who thanked India for our efforts and for what we did in terms of supplying not just vaccines but also medicines before that, and even PPE kits and other basic infrastructure that was required to fight the pandemic. We took it for granted that India is safe and we are going to be unscathed by this Wuhan virus. We just took it for granted that nothing is going to happen to us. There were warning signs during the first wave of the pandemic as well. We prepared for that and we got through relatively easily. During the second wave too, there were several warnings that were given and several experts said that we should be prepared for a second wave because it's going to be nasty. We just took it for granted because we said even during the first wave such kind of, warning signs were given but nothing happened. So even this will be on similar grounds and we'll get away unscathed is what we thought. And at that point in time, we acted according to the time of the day and decided to go ahead and send these vaccines around the world to get some goodwill. When it happened, I strongly believe it was the right decision to have been taken at that point in time. In hindsight, now it looks like it should not have been done. But it's very easy for us to later on sit and judge and say, oh yeah, it should have been done or should not have been done. That is as far as vaccines are concerned. Let me also talk about another aspect with regards to vaccines. Vaccines can't be produced overnight. It's a process that takes a long time. And it's not something that happens with a swipe of a hand. Raw materials are involved. These raw materials come from around the world. Supply chains have been disrupted. It's not easy to get those raw materials. And hence, vaccine manufacturing has not picked up and the demand right now cannot be met. We are trying everything that we possibly can to try and get these vaccines from outside. But once again, like I mentioned, supply chains have been disrupted. Vaccine manufacturers around the world have already made commitments to other governments and they will have to fulfill those commitments first or else they'll have to face the heat legally. We have also now tried to secure as many vaccines as possible and the government is suggesting by December 2021, we would have vaccinated around, or we would have inoculated around 2 billion people, 2 billion doses rather, not billion people. We'll have 2 billion doses and the majority of our population will be covered. How that happens, if that will happen, time will tell us. But implementation has always been a problem in India. This is something that I've mentioned and maintained time and again. It's great that if we can get 2 million doses by December 2021, honestly, I don't see that happening because our track record right from the past 75 years has shown us that this does not happen. Implementation is going to be the key. If we can implement it, well and good. Coming to the other issue of no vacancy. This is a bigger issue and it is a fundamental problem. If you cannot employ the youth, we can't get anywhere. And job creation has been a problem on the economic front. This government has suffered. This government has tried to bring about many reforms, has tried to bring about many changes and try and change the system as a whole, but somehow it hasn't worked. And the economy is currently reeling under the double whammy of demonetization and the effect of the pandemic as well. So the impact that it has had on the informal sector, which creates massive number of jobs and which creates a lot of income. I mean, income maybe not in terms of quality, but in terms of quantity, there is a lot of income and everybody gets something out of it and it keeps the clock ticking kind of a thing. Now, the informal sector has been completely destroyed. It's not like the economy was doing wonderfully well before the pandemic either. There were problems with the economy. For the last 5-6 years, we've seen that the economy is not doing as well as it is supposed to be doing. Job creation in India has historically and traditionally been a problem area. Even when India was growing in double digits, well, now it no longer has grown in double digits because it has been revised. The terms and the figures have been revised. But even at the height of our economic development, the number of jobs that we were creating was not as good as it was supposed to be. So this problem of job creation has been a legacy issue, has been a historical issue, and it continues even now. And despite efforts being made, it hasn't been addressed. The youth are getting anxious. The youth are getting worried about what they can do with their future because there is no supply at all. The demand only keeps increasing and the pandemic has only ensured that this goes up manifold and there is no supply. And nothing is being done on this front. And the youth are really getting restless because they don't have anything else to do. This has to be sorted out at the earliest. Maybe we can start with filling in the government vacancies. So many lakhs, crores actually of government vacancies are, our jobs are lying vacant both at the center and at the state. If you start filling them up, probably many of the youth can be employed. But then the governments are looking at the bigger issue of, the impact that it will have on the state exchequer. At the end of the day, pensions will have to be paid, gratuity and all those other things that come along with the government job will only increase the burden on the state exchequer. So this is something that governments are concerned about and worried about. Now the private sector needs to be roped in somehow to try and create more jobs. But then when you have state governments coming out with laws which says that, 75% of reservation should be given to locals, even in the private sector, it becomes difficult for the private sector also to go after talent and, to get the right kind of people that they want. We are not empowering our private sector enough as well. We look at businesses and businessmen with an eye of doubt, with an eye of not just doubt, but we also have a perception where, they are only in it for the money and they may not be doing social good. At the end of the day, only if you empower the private sector will they be able to provide for the kind of jobs that are required. All this needs to be done and this needs to be the priority of the government because this government has failed on job creation as well. If we do not do anything with regards to the issue of unemployment and job creation, I'm afraid that we are going to go down a very rough path and it's going to be difficult for us to recover. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of FRP Explains. If you like the content, please like the video, subscribe and hit the bell icon. And for those of you who would like to come forward and make a contribution, you may do so by using our UPI IDs. A small contribution that you make will go a long way in us bringing you this content. That's it from me. See you again next time.